What does it mean to truly awaken? What does it mean to be awake? That's been bantered about and even used as a weapon of such, which I've always thought that's just so odd. Aren't we always on a quest to learn and to know and to evolve, to grow and expand? So much of what Ed sings in his song, I pray to know, to open, to be willing to hear, to be the best person that we can be. What does it mean to truly awaken? Not to perform spiritually, not to be a walking, what's the word I want to use? A quote machine, doing our favorite affirmations in everybody's faces. That's not really being spiritually awake. That's being annoying, assuming that everybody should believe the same thing that you believe. It doesn't always have to be annoying, but I mean, come on now. How many of us, I'll try not to raise my hand, are very guilty of pushing my thoughts and beliefs on other people because, by golly, if they only believed the way I believe, oh my gosh, we would be in such better shape. Ooh, heaven forbid. Maybe that might be true a little tiny bit at a time. We are each individuals, or as Emily Cady in Lessons in Truth would put it, we are personalities within this individual. The language gets funny in Unity. Allness, oneness of consciousness of divine source. There is only one presence and one power. We call that God the Good because, to the best of our knowledge, everything is based on the laws of physics. Right? So it's about presence, it's about principle. And yet here we are, personalities, trying to do our best within this matrix. So what does it mean to truly awaken? Not with the beliefs that you were raised with, but to truly begin to come to a place and live from a place where you are attuned to the resonance of the universe that you are swimming in. And to call that holy. And to know that every single moment you are on holy ground. And as Stevie Wonder wrote, higher ground, we are always reaching for that higher ground. To keep moving forward. And isn't it interesting, because I'm noticing that even as I'm talking, it's always in the heavens. It's always in the heavens. We're reaching higher ground. We're not trying to get to lower ground. And yet, it is only one presence and one power, in the higher, in the lower, in the in-between. And it's all an interpretation of how you live each and every moment. The question I am asking of you right now today is, how are you doing, and are you willing to reach even higher than where you are right now? And also, if you're not, if you're very happy being in the awareness and consciousness of where you are in this moment, that is okay too. Because there are no rights, there are no wrongs, there is only is. Because we, each person, get to choose how we show up in the world at any given moment. Is any of this making sense? When you read statistics, you'll see that many churches are getting smaller and smaller. Statistically, across the board, so it seems. Now, I don't have exact statistics to give you, and there is growth. And there's growth in Unity, there's growth in other places, but we are seeing this, what looks like a shrinkage of attendance within church services. And I like to think that that is because, not because people are turning away from God. I say no, we are wanting more of God. But a lot of people don't know that that's even what they're searching for. But there is a deep hunger, a thirst, a great awakening that is happening in this paradigm shift that we are in. And there are so many different places that you can get your information in a nanosecond. And all we have to do is turn on YouTube, and you can be in any church service of any flavor all around the world at any time. God is at your fingertips. Spirituality is at your fingertips. This is the Basilica della Sagrada Familia. I'm practicing saying that word. Basilica della Sagrada Familia, the Church of the Holy Family in Barcelona. This church was begun 140 years ago, 1882. Antoni Gaudi, he actually took the initial design from another person who created, from my understanding, the initial architecture design for this cathedral. It has never been completed. It has never been completed. It was begun in 1882. Yeah. Gaudi worked on it himself for over 40 years. And the people of Barcelona say, and that's the point. Because it is ever evolving, it is ever changing. There is a completion date for a piece of it for this year. So it's very interesting to do your research on this and study it. Oh my goodness, it is so stunning. It's amazing. Have any of you ever seen it? Oh, have you been inside? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have too, Kimberly? How wonderful.
It's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. It has never stopped being worked on, just like us. Just like us. We are an unfinished product. Every generation adds to it. Every decade sees new understanding, new technology, new vision, all poured into this living, breathing, growing expression of spirit. We are like this cathedral, and Unity itself is like this cathedral, ever growing, ever expanding. When Charles and Myrtle Fillmore began this movement, first in 1886, when Myrtle began her healing journey of coming to the understanding that she did not have to succumb to tuberculosis, that within her she had the power to heal. And she started that healing journey through prayer in 1886. And Charles, her husband, watching her, observing this, watching his wife, who had always been ill, become better. And in 1889, they published the first edition of Modern Thought. Charles Fillmore was first and foremost a publisher and a realtor. And watching his wife, he became a Unity metaphysician. And it was through a dream that he was given the word unity for the teaching that was unfolding within them. And Charles and Myrtle Fillmore always had the intention of unity being a lifestyle. For people, if they were attracted to it, they didn't proselytize. We don't proselytize. We don't go knocking door to door. But to live by example. For it to be a lifestyle. And if people were attracted to it, wonderful. And people were attracted to it. And through the desires of the people, they began ordaining ministers and becoming organizations, institutions. But it was never meant to be a closed system. It was always meant to be an ever-evolving, moving system, free of doctrine. And perhaps that is what attracted you to the Unity teachings yourself. I know in the church I grew up in, I had so many questions, and I was told exactly how it was supposed to be. It was a closed system. And I know in some churches, in some religions, you're not even supposed to ask questions. You just take it all on faith. I remember as a young person, as a child, just feeling so boxed in by that because I didn't know a lot, but I knew my God was a lot bigger than that building that I went into every Sunday morning. And they were beautiful, wonderful people. But there was always a message underneath. I was flawed, so you better come back. We don't teach that in Unity. We teach that we are each wonderful and perfect and whole and complete. An open system. This is Unity Farm in 1920. And the Fillmores bought the property outside of Kansas City in Lee Summit, Missouri. Actually, Unity Village is its own zip code. But this is part of what the farm looked like. And it was a working farm and a working orchard. This is Unity Village today. Ever evolving, ever growing. This is who you are a part of if you come to Unity Merced. This is who you are a part of this open system. What does it mean to be awake? It means to keep your heart open, to keep your mind open. And to have that hunger and that drive to find the light and the understanding and the experience yourself. To ever unfold so that our light shines on the next person and the next person and the next person, and that love and light just lifts up the whole world. Eric Butterworth, whose book I'm using, A Unity Quest for Truth. It's a very basic Unity teaching. Unity is not a church, but an institution for scientific self-discovery and self-unfoldment. And this is the initial thinking of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore when the teaching came through them. You'll still hear people call Unity a church. Some people here like to call Unity a church. You can call it what you like. But so often when we hear the word church, it's a stable, unchanging institution. You'll often hear Unity referred to as spiritual centers. And even just the language that allows for the continuing discovery. Unity beginning in 1889 at the same time as Tolstoy was working on his spiritual teaching in Russia and in Japan. Help me. Joe Ray, of which Janie and Janet are a part of. That's why you don't see them one Sunday a month here, because they're off in Fresno doing Joe Ray. The same teaching, very similar language. It was not just unity. It was a paradigm shift that was happening in the world. And there were others as well popping up at that time. I find that so exciting because we can trace the histories and we can see the unfolding, the awakening. We can see the light shining, coming to the true teachings of what Jesus taught, that the kingdom of heaven is within you. And that you are self-empowered to find your light and your love. The Fillmores changed the way people started looking at healing, at the way they started looking at prayer, at the way people started looking at prosperity, not just as money, but as a whole system of wellness, of abundance. Do you know how amazingly wonderful and fortunate you are to be sitting here in this room? This October, Unity Merced will celebrate its 70th anniversary here in Merced. That's lovely. We'll be working on that. 70 years of teaching the truth of the light that shines for you is your power. In beauty may you walk. Charles Fillmore, don't bind me to what I taught 10 years ago. I reserve the right to grow. I reserve the right to change my mind. We quote him all the time with that. Don't keep me caged in. Myrtle Fillmore grew up a Methodist in Pagetown. Her name was Myrtle Page. Her town in Ohio was named after her family. And she belonged to a Methodist church, and they would go have their picnics by the river, and Myrtle would be hanging out up in a tree. Her church was nature. She knew that in her heart. We don't have to be in a building. I appreciate it when you do come to the building on Sunday morning so that we can have spiritual community together. But we know that God is everywhere. The spirit of unity, open doors, open minds, open hearts, and ever-evolving spiritual consciousness. This is who we are. This is who you are. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were spiritual explorers, mystics, metaphysical adventurers. They observed life. They prayed. They experimented with consciousness. They paid attention to healing, thought, energy, prayer, scripture, and the power of the spoken word. Why am I sharing all this with you today? Because I think it's so important that every now and then we go back to basics and we remember who we are and what our history is and what our potential is. Mystical spirituality says stay open, stay teachable, stay awake, because truth is alive. Awaken your imprisoned splendor. Okay, so I'm going to put Janie on the spot. So, do you know Robert Browning's poem, Janie?
No.
Oh, okay. She'll call me out on that later. It's okay. But Janie, just so you know, I did that to her because she gave me a whole sermon yesterday, and I was going to transcribe it and give it to you today, but I couldn't quite get to it. But one of these days, you'll hear Janie's take on unity. I don't. I started to apologize. I don't apologize.
Oh, God.
Because it's important that for each of us to know who we are and that we each have wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
That we each have wisdom that is inherent in us. Not because I just think Janie is a wonderful spiritual teacher, because she is, but because I know that each and every one of you are. That we all have that potential. So Robert Browning wrote in Paracelsus, truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things, whate'er you may believe. There is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness, and around, wall upon wall, the gross flesh hems it in, and to know rather consist in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape. Victorian words. Your imprisoned splendor. That is our journey here on earth, to awaken that imprisoned splendor. Jesus told us over and over again, the kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Whence the imprisoned splendor may escape. We see all this unrest, don't we? We see all this chaos and disruption. And I think what is really happening is that in this paradigm shift that I believe is happening, it is this great hunger to break out of the shell and to break out of the dogmatic teachings, to break free of doctrine and to find our hearts, to find our self-empowerment. So I ask us to be willing to go even deeper than where we already are. So Kimberly and Leslie, this is the awakened splendor inside of the Sagrada Familia. Just one, I imagine, right? Does this go all around? Do you remember?
You could probably spend days in there and not see all the splendor.
Wow. How beautiful. How beautiful. So just imagine that this is your imprisoned splendor, wanting to break out and to be ever evolving. And in it all, be excessively gentle with yourself. And so it is.